Hi, welcome back to another TerranScapes video. This video is going to be a unique little series of videos basically on me painting a miniature. And before I get into the miniature and the painting, I just want to give you the background for it. I did a Google Hangout chat slash interview with Painting Girl, and she was asking me whether, what I've been painting for miniatures and whether I play miniature games and whatnot, because of course most people just see my terrain side of things. And that actually got me thinking, because I actually do have a miniature project that I wanted to work on for the coming month of March, and that is for a painting competition. There's going to be a painting competition at the BattleStandard in Connecticut, produced by or sponsored by or hosted by Battlecry. I'll put a link in the description to it. There's not a lot of information on the competition, so I don't know how big it's going to be, but hey, sometimes you just need an excuse to get out there and do something a little different. I do play a handful of miniatures games. I play Warhammer Fantasy and I play Dystopian Wars. I got in on the Sedition Wars Kickstarter, so I've been painting Sedition Wars minis. But I often find that I'm painting for a deadline, I'm adding to an army, and I don't often spend the time on the miniatures that that I could spend. Basically, I'm never painting to my full potential, because when you gotta do another 10 Cryptors for your army, I want to get them on the table. So I'm usually painting them to, just above a painting tabletop standard. Sometimes, not as well as I could. Let's put it that way. When spending a little more time on characters, you probably, many of you fit into a similar bill. So I thought it's time to get my painting cred back on here and do something special for this painting competition. The competition will be on April 6th, so that gives me 1 month from today, basically, well, a month and a week, to get the miniature ready. And I think that's going to be a pretty tight timeline, as for something like this, I'm expecting to spend 30 to 40 hours on it. So that means I have to put in some real time almost every day this month. But that's a good excuse to get cracking on something. And so, I do get a little rambly. So what I wanted to do was take you through the process and give you some updates. I'm not planning on doing in-progress videos. I may change my mind, but I'm not planning on doing that. But to give you at least 2, 3, maybe 4 videos along the way to show you how I've been tackling the miniature, some of my creative thought processes on it, and give you a final look at it before the competition. So doing this little video blog along the way means I've got to get it done. So I will be working hard to make sure that that happens, and hopefully you'll enjoy following along with me on it. So let's take a look today at the miniature I've chosen. I've got it prepped and ready for painting, and I'll give you some ideas about where I think the project might go. So the miniature I've chosen is Isabella Von Carstein from the Warhammer Fantasy range. This is a finecast miniature, which I'll talk about in more detail, pros and cons on that. But I love this miniature. I play vampire counts, so adding this to my army was a thought, but I think I'm going to make this a standalone piece that never actually gets played with. The model has a really dynamic pose. It's scary and sexy at the same time. Probably not everybody's taste, but it really just captured my imagination. So this is the one I've decided to focus on for the month. Before I get into the miniature, just talk a little bit about what's going on here. This is my holding stand for when I'm doing fine miniature painting. I haven't used it in quite a while, but basically what I've done is I put a magnet in the top, and I usually magnetize all my miniatures to go on movement trays, so it makes kind of a handy, way of holding her. It's a little bit janky for metal miniatures because they're so heavy. Sometimes they'll spin around, and it doesn't really work well for that. But for a fine cast miniature that's really lightweight, it works really well as a holding device to do painting with. Let's talk about fine cast and Isabella here. Actually, let me change the lighting first here. So I've assembled the miniature in its entirety except for the cowl, and the cowl goes right behind her hair, and I think that's going to make a real problem for getting into the back of her hair. So what I've decided to do is leave the cowl mounted on a toothpick. I'll paint it on its own and add it right at the end. The miniature doesn't have a lot of parts to it. There is the... Stay focused. Come on. There we go. There's the sword arm that needs to be attached. I believe I had to attach this arm as well. And I think the rest of the miniature is pretty much all one piece. The thing, let's talk pros first. The thing that I love most, let's see how close we can get in with this video camera for this purpose. The detail on many aspects of her, the detail that finecast captures, you know, in her hair, in her ribbon tying the back of her dress, in the flowers at the base of her dress there, at some of the absolutely beautiful lace in the interior of her, you know, coat, petticoat, gown, whatever that is. Absolutely fantastic. And I don't think there's a way of capturing some of that detail with that level of crispness without finecast. I've painted plastic minis, I've painted metal, I've painted plastic. I've done it all, and I do think that there is something about finecast that captures some of that in a really nice, crisp level. Saying that, finecast has a lot of problems, and of course many people have bitched about it since its arrival on the market, but I will say that for me, major problems with this miniature. All along her bust here, this little strip of armor has, it comes to a very fine point, and I may insert a few photos of this so you can see it in a little bit more detail. These all needed to be filled with liquid green stuff because they were all pucked. There was a bubble in each and every one of these ridges. And that's really hard to fix because it's very small, and I'm afraid it's going to show up when I'm finished painting the miniature. So I've done my best under a magnifying glass to try to fill all those spots, but problematic to say the least. Also, the curls in her hair, I'll show you a picture of that. The curl in her hair didn't fill, so I've tried to fix that with green stuff. That's not, or liquid green stuff, that's not an easy fix because it's a rounded piece with actually a large gap in the very end of that major curl at the top. I'm not pleased about that. Lastly, for major problems, the back of her chalice, there's blood spilling out of the chalice, and the blood did not form properly, bubbles at the end of both of those droplets, as well as in many of the gems along the back of the chalice. A lot of problems there that I've done my best to clean up as well. I'm going to show you a photo of that. Those are small details that are important in a very dynamic miniature. You know, having a problem up in this area, which is where your focal point is going to be when you come to view the miniature, is a concern. So I'm really hoping that between fixing it and painting it, these won't be noticeable at the end. There were, you know, some problems in a couple of the creases, and this one I've worked hard to fill as well, but those are pretty minor, and I wasn't really concerned about that. It's hidden, it's in the back of the miniature. Most people will probably never ever see that, so nothing of real concern there. And there were also, you can see probably little tiny drops of green stuff underneath her girdle. There were a couple of bubbles formed in the points of those, and in fact, under magnification, you can see one or two other tips that didn't quite fully form. But if I can't see them with the naked eye, of course I'm 40, it's getting a little tougher, but if I can't see those, then probably people won't be able to see them when it's done painted as well, so I wasn't too concerned about that. So, I don't know. Finecast, love it, hate it. I think it's great and it's horrible at the same time. I don't plan on buying a lot of Finecast miniatures, but for a special competition like this, I'm willing to undergo one and give it all my love. Before I leave it, let's talk a little bit about what my plans are for the Mini. You know, the color scheme will probably be not too far off of this. My army has a lot of dark motifs in it, and I use scaly green for some highlights. So I might incorporate that into the dark parts of the armor. And I haven't decided really anything about color choices for the clothing aspects of the miniature, so I'll give that some thought down the road. But what I'd like to do, this is the plan, is I'd like to box her in the corner of, say, a castle interior, right, so some kind of stonework, like she's inside a building. Put a corner on the miniature just like this, and then take her sword and you know, give it an object source lighting effect, brighten it up, give it like it's glowing blue or something like that, so she'll be at the back of the corner. And then I can use that and radiate that onto the wall corners and really, you know, get some nice detail on that, and maybe a very slight amount. I don't want it to be super bright like it's shining on the whole mini, but pick some of that up on the arm, maybe on the side of her head, maybe on the side of her body here, something like that, something very subtle as it radiates away, but have it kind of close to the back of the wall so I can have it a little brighter back there. I want to add something to the miniature that gives it a little bit more of a place rather than just being on a base. And I thought about putting her outdoors, you know, and I really don't want to go with the classic, you know, tombstones or grasses and things like that, as she's regal. You know, this is a very elegant miniature, and I think putting her in an elegant castle environment is going to fit her motif a little bit better. So that's the plan at this point. So a lot of work to go, but I finally have her all cleaned up, and we'll get her primed and get started. So that gives you an idea of where I want to take the project, and just a few caveats, especially for new viewers, subscribers to the channel. I don't take commissions for painting miniatures. I don't paint them fast enough to compete in the market, really, and my hands are full with terrain. So before I get any questions on that, this will be a unique sort of small series on the channel, as I don't plan on doing this very often, especially painting something like this for a competition. I mean, who knows in the future, but I mean, at this point, that's not my plan. And so if you're new to the channel, recognize this is a irregular feature. So if you love it, sorry, it won't be happening too often. And if you hate it, it won't be back probably after I'm done with it. So, you know, you can just skip past these videos if you want to. I don't normally watch painting videos per se. It's not my love. I have subscribed to, or not subscribed, but purchased a couple of the Miniature Mentor painting videos, and I do recommend them. I think they're fantastic, actually, and they've really exploded my you know, perspective on how to paint miniatures, techniques to use, ways to control paint, ways to control your brush. I'll be, you know, tapping into some of that knowledge to work on this miniature. And the techniques they show are often not very fast, but they do produce some pretty amazing effects. So that's probably enough. Thanks for checking in with me on this, and keep your eyes tuned over this month as I post updates on it. I'll try to put one up at least once a week. That's the plan, and we'll see how much progress I make each week. And adding the you know, the plinth and the castle walls behind her and all of that, you know, I've got a lot of work to do, so I better get cracking on it. So thanks for joining me, and keep your eye on the channel, and I'll be back with a video pretty soon.